Okay, this is the range. Now, your body temperature should be within this. Now, if your body temperature goes up, body temperature goes up above normal, then what happens? You all know that. If body temperature increases, sweating, right? Sweating occurs. You know that. So, when sweating occurs, the water that gets out from the body takes a lot of heat out from the body. So, water takes what? A lot of heat out. So, body temperature goes down. Is it clear? So, sweating will bring it back to normal within normal range, and that is homeostasis. Your body is doing it. You are not doing, right? Your body is trying to maintain the temperature normal. Is it clear? Now, if your body temperature goes down below normal, your body becomes cold, then what happens? Shivering, right? Muscle contraction. That produces heat. Metabolism produces heat, right? So, it goes back to what? Normal again. So, if it goes up, sweating will bring it down. If it goes below normal, shivering will bring it back to normal, right? So, the goal is what? Keeping it within that range, right? Limit, normal limit. Is it clear? So, your body is doing the task to keep the internal environment within the normal range. Is it clear? So, that is the homeostasis. Now, another example. If I gave you this example already, if you drink too much water in your body, the volume of water goes up, right? So, who will now take care of that? Urinary system, right? Kidneys. How? By producing more urine, right? So, kidneys are trying to maintain the volume of water in the body normal, right? Too much is not good, less is not good, right? So, you see, in this case, kidneys are. So, all of your body systems are trying to maintain homeostasis, internal environment constant. So, now, there are two mechanisms of homeostasis. One is called positive feedback, and another is called negative feedback. So, these are the mechanisms. Remember, if I ask you, what are the mechanisms of homeostasis? These two, positive and negative feedback mechanisms. Your body uses negative feedback mechanism in most of the cases. In most of the cases, body uses negative feedback. Now, remember, the word negative doesn't mean here that only moving it down. For example, when the body temperature increases, sweating occurs, body temperature comes down to normal, right? So, this is negative feedback, bringing down. But when body temperature drops, shivering occurs, that brings the body temperature back to normal. This is also negative. So, negative feedback is moving down as well as moving up. The goal is what? Bringing back to normal. Is it clear? So, bringing back to normal. So, both cases are negative. Positive feedback only occurs in few instances, only in few instances, where a function is continuously enhanced, increased continuously until the task is done. So that is different than this. Let me give you an example, positive feedback. You know, when childbirth takes place, uterus contracts, right? You know that? Uterus contracts. So that's a special case. Uterus contracts. And gradually, the contraction, force of contraction increases. Okay? So gradually, it is intensified, enhanced, right? The force of contraction until childbirth. Right? Makes sense? So, and then when childbirth occurs, then it stops. So, accomplishes that function, right? Another is when you get a cut. This is blood vessel. When you get a cut, what happens? Platelets, one type of blood cells, get attached there, and more platelets get together. So this is the clot, blood clot formation. So initially, only few platelets makes a very small clot, then more and more join. Okay, so the clot gets bigger. Is it clear? So gradually, it is getting bigger. So that is another example of positive feedback. Okay, one is childbirth, uterine contraction gradually increases, right? Another is this one, clot formation. Gradually, the size increases until the cut is sealed, blocked. Now, positive feedback is not always helpful. Could be harmful too. Positive feedback could be what? Harmful too. For example, when you get a cut, blood clot formation is good, right? To block that bleeding, stop that bleeding. Now, if you didn't get any cut, but blood clot is formed inside the blood vessel and gets bigger, is that good? No. No. That will block the artery, right? And if it happens in the coronary artery, then you may die, right? So, that positive feedback is not good. Another example, same thing I'm going to give you. In very early stage of your pregnancy, if uterus starts to contract and gets more and more strong, is that good? That will cause miscarriage, right? Or abortion. You don't want that, right? So positive feedback may not be always good. Yes.
What about people who are anemic and can't form blood clots? Would that be negative or positive?
If the patient is anemic, in that case, what your body will try to do first will stimulate the bone marrow, where the red blood cells are produced, okay, to produce more red blood cells. Even if that doesn't work or help, then you cannot say if it is negative or positive. That's a abnormal situation.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is positive feedback that your body is stimulating the bone marrow to produce more.
Okay.
Okay, red blood cells.
So does the outcome determine whether or not it's positive or negative?
Which one?
And whichever case, if it produces.
The number of red blood cells will increase, yeah, because the body will stimulate the bone marrow. But that is, we will consider that as negative feedback mechanism. Okay? Because that is trying to bring the function back to normal. Okay? So that is homeostasis. Now, for homeostasis, there are two mechanisms and 5 components. One is called the receptors, then the control center, then the effector. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. 2 more components are from the receptor. the nerves or neuron that takes the signal to the control center, that is called sensory neuron. Okay, and from the control center to the effector, the neuron that takes the signal, that is called the motor neuron or motor pathway. Okay, so you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let me give you an example how these 5 components work, why you need those 5 components for homeostasis. If body temperature increases, okay, your body has temperature receptors. You remember when I talked about the integumentary system, I said that in your skin you have temperature receptors, right? Touch, pain, temperature receptors. So you have receptors in the body, you know that, right? That can detect the change of temperature, right? So those are the receptors that detect the change. So receptors detect the change. Is it clear that your body temperature has increased or decreased? So then receptors will send signal to the control center, which is the central nervous system, your brain, for example, or spinal cord. So central nervous system is the control center. Who will take the signal that body temperature has increased from the receptor to the control center? Sensory neurons will take that signal to the brain. Okay? So from the skin, for example, or from the body, the sensory neurons will take the signal to the control center. Okay? Why your control center should receive that signal? What do you think? Why, when the body temperature increases, why the brain should know that? Because brain will try to maintain homeostasis, right? Bring it back to normal. And to do that, brain must know if your body temperature has increased or decreased. Make sense? Your receptors can do only detect. Only can detect. Make sense? But it cannot do anything else. So receptors will detect that the temperature has increased, send signal to the control center. Is it clear? And now, in this case, the control center, the brain will do what? Interpret that signal. Interpretation. That how much increase? Increase doesn't, it could be 1 degree, 3 degree, 5 degree, right? Increase of temperature. So who can detect that? The brain can only do that, right? That how much temperature has increased in the body. Is it clear? So control center will interpret that signal. And then control center will send signal through the motor neurons to the effector who will perform the action. Effector will perform the action. Now you tell me, if body temperature increases, I have just mentioned a few minutes ago here, if body temperature increases, how your body responds? Sweating, right? Sweating. So the control center will send signal to the effectors, that means sweat glands. Because sweat glands will perform the action. Is it clear? By releasing water or sweat. So you see that 5 components of homeostasis, right? Within that circuit, you have 5 things, right? To accomplish a task. So that is homeostasis. Now, let me give you another example. if something very hot touches your skin here, okay? Skin has temperature receptors, you all know, right? So the receptors, temperature receptors will receive it, detect it, send it to the control center. Now in this case, control center will send signal to the hand because you've got something very hot, touched by something very hot here. Your brain will send signal to the effector, right? Now you tell me who is the effector in this case? To move the hand away. Muscles of your hand, right? Because something very hot, right? You felt, you have to move the hand out. Who is performing the action? The muscles in this case, right? So muscles are the effectors, effector organs, okay? So that is homeostasis. So if you just go over next few slides, I explained everything, so you will understand easily. Okay? So today, first we finished rest of the systems of the body. Two things we talked about, the parts of each system and important functions, right? And then we talked about the necessary life functions, some important information you got, right? And then we talked about the homeostasis. So homeostasis has how many mechanisms? Okay, that's why I'm asking. How many mechanisms? How many components?
Two.
Mechanisms two, right? Positive and negative. Which one is used by the body in most of the cases? Negative. Right? Positive only in few instances. And how many components? Five. Receptors, right, to detect. Sensory neurons to take the signal to the control center, right? Control center interprets. Then through motor neurons, send signal to the effector, right? And the effector will perform the action. So one thing is important that you understand what I am asking. If I ask you what are the mechanisms, those two, right? What are the components? Those five. Clear? Okay. So let's stop here. I will take your attendance. So if you have any question, you can ask me. If no,